CEO of Royal Pineda Plus. Hello, Royal, and thank you for being here with us.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so Royal, can you talk to us about the current state of the architectural industry in the Philippines? What are the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities?
You know, I'm very happy to see things are really changing. Like, I see identity happening in the Philippine architecture. I see the young ones really being aggressive, seeking for what is the roots of what's Filipino. It really is, it's a treat to see those efforts happening from this young generation. And I've been actually seeking for that desire from the young ones because, you know, it's a very global and digital world now. And with the influence of the globe, you can actually lose yourself.
Yeah. So how do we find our identity through Filipino architecture? How do we make architecture truly Filipino?
You know, I've discovered my philosophy 32 years ago. I've always been a naturalist. And it's actually part of my journey that led me to understanding that what is authentic and what is genuine. And that made me understand that I can discover what is Filipino through really being inspired by the nature of the Philippines. So as a naturalist, if I am inspired by the nature of the Philippines, by the land, by the people, I believe that I'm creating what is Filipino architecture. So I think that authenticity becomes a manifestation of the entire process. It becomes effortless, in fact, having that philosophy as a naturalist.
What does modern Filipino architecture mean to you, Royal?
Modernity for me is not a style. It's never a look also, Maiki. It's not just the materials of having steel, glass, concrete. It's not that. Modernity for me is a mindset. It is a mindset of saying modernity is betterment. That's why I started to coin it as modern Filipino. I always want to discover what is rooted as Filipino, but what is better as Filipino. So it leads me to an endless process of constantly saying, what's modern today? Or what's better today? Because what's better today is different from better 50 years from now. So modern Filipino becomes a continuum. It never ends.
It's a continual evolution and wanting to get better. Now, talking about the work that you do, we're seeing a lot of it being flashed on the screen now. How would you describe what makes something truly Royal Pineda? What makes a structure, a building, an idea?
It's hard to say because I really don't see it as a style. As I've said, the philosophy guides me. In fact, the philosophies, because I have 3 philosophies, as a naturalist and a modernist. But I think being faithful to the process, it becomes a very organic result. Having to see, like if you see the airport, you see the new Clark City, you see the resorts that we did. I mean, they have their own identities, and I call it micro-identities because every spot, every place is different, and every client is different, every person is different. So in the end, I think what defines my work is really to resonate what is the philosophy that I have, which is modern and natural.
And how you got into architecture, you were telling me just a while ago, interesting story that you were registering for college and that you were gonna gun for engineering, but it was full, and so you went into architecture, and that you always loved sketching and drawing, but you never drew it as it was. You always made your own interpretation of how you wanted it to be. Can you talk to us about that and how that led to your own design philosophies and your own style?
Yes. Well, because as a young kid, like grade 2, I think I was grade 2, I still remember I always had my pen and my paper, and I always sketched, I always sketched things. I sketched cars, but I don't draw them the way they are. I always have to put my point of view, my translation. As a young kid, I was just changing them. I didn't know that I was changing them for something, but I just had this desire to say, I cannot just copy it. And I think that brought me to this feeling of always challenging the status quo, because I always seek for what's better. And I remember I was even telling and sharing this to some friends. I remember when I was a child, like I think grade 3 or grade 4, I used to stand in the street and I used to see these jeepneys passing by with so many passengers, with people hanging on the jeep. And then I start to see a car that has one passenger inside. And I had a big question, and I still remember that. I always ask myself, why is he not sharing? Why is there something with this setup of the jeep where people are having difficulties riding one vehicle, and then suddenly there's this one car with one passenger and he's not sharing? From that point, I was already thinking, I was saying, is there a way to design this thing? So I didn't know. I was not thinking of poverty. I was not thinking of anything. I was just trying to design. I realized that I was just trying to design.
Mm-hmm. How can we democratize architecture? How can we democratize good architecture to make good architecture and, you know, world-class efficiencies? Yeah. How do we incorporate that into the Filipino design for everyone?
Yeah, it's nice that you're saying that, Maiki, because I believe design is for everyone. As you know, we are doing, of course, bespoke homes, you know, in the exclusive villages, and we've done, you know, very premium hotels and private spaces. Modern Filipino, I believe, is not just for the exclusive owners of these homes, but modern Filipino is for every Filipino.
How can we do it on a budget? How can we make good design practicable, easy to execute, and cost-effective?
That's also nice, because that's the big question. How do you bring the Philippines to a modern Philippines? So I also needed to coin and create a way to do it, and I call it practical luxury. It's a paradox, practical but then luxury.
Yeah.
But the point here is to bring the mind of the Filipinos to that freedom that I'm enjoying now, because I enjoy this very much. I enjoy being able to design with no limits, because you can ask me to design a small museum in Basilan, in Mindanao, and I'll do it. You ask me to design a bridge, I'll do it. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
As long as it will bring the essence of what is modern Filipino.
You've diversified, actually. Although architecture is your main focus,
yes,
you also engage in infrastructure, furniture design, landscape, graphic design. What has inspired you to branch out into these other areas?
I wanted clarity. I wanted to define what's Filipino. I wanted to define what's modern, what's progressive, what's better for the Filipinos. And I cannot do that if I'm only doing architecture, because once it's architecture, they start to bring in Italian furnitures. They start to put landscape with topiaries that as if it's in France. You know, it needed to have a full picture of what is a Filipino sensibility. And you can only see that in an orchestra of what is Filipino. You have to create an orchestra, and that's why we're collaborating. That's why it's Royal Pineda Plus. The plus is about
whoever else you
let's collaborate.
With.
Let's bring what is Filipino.
Okay. Given our colonial mentality, is it difficult to get Filipinos to love, you know, homegrown materials, homegrown ideas? Is it difficult to get them to build and to just have a truly Filipino thing without much influence from overseas?
It's really not difficult. I think it's really just a matter of the Filipinos opening up the mind to the idea that we are equally important as the rest of the world. Because if we don't see it that way, we will always be trapped You know, we will always be trapped with the concept of looking at the internet and always searching for what's happening abroad, and that's going to be what they'll be doing here also. Mm-hmm. I think the idea here is to discover that we can find authenticity, we can be genuine, we can be real, but you don't just bring yourself out there as Filipino. You have to show them a refined Filipino, a better Filipino. Mm-hmm. Because the world is a potluck. You cannot bring something, a dish that is not well done by your mother or your family. You bring to a party a well-done dish. And that's the same. You cannot be Filipino and then what? Your tropical architecture is lousy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't address your tropical climate. Mm-hmm. So the rest of the tropical countries in the world will say, hey, you're tropical, you're supposed to be creating Philippine architecture for your place. But it seems like you've been doing Italian, you've been doing Mediterranean. So there's that mindset that, again, needs to be aligned.
Yeah, it's nice. It would be nice to see a lot of the malls, a lot of the developments in the Philippines have a more Filipino character.
I even call it really identity.
Yeah.
That's why that character that you just mentioned is a part of the totality of what we can all look at these micro identities. It can be in Lawag, it can be in Palawan. That's something that really responds to the context of the place. And it becomes an identity of its own, a small one, a micro one. But then when you zoom out, it's the Philippines. Yeah. And I think that's where we can all unite in saying, hey, you're not losing your identity as Palawan. In fact, you have to amplify Palawan. But
all right.
It becomes part of the whole thing.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. Industry Beacon will be right back. Please stay with us.
Ako si Corina Sanchez Rojas.
Ako si Pinky Webb.
Simulan na natin ang agenda. No show sa hearing si VP Sara at ang mga taga-Office of the Vice President.
Budget, hawak lang ng 2 tao.
Pangbubudol na naman po yan.
Mananatili muna sa Campo Crame si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Yung kaso po nito ay non-bailable.
At sa East Timor si Pope Francis para isulong ang interreligious harmony. Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
It has no authorization.
We hope and pray that it will not.
Thanks for having me here.
An orchestrated
By myself, basically.
We always say that.
It depends.
A well-concerted effort.
Perhaps I can reiterate.
My greatest beefsteak. Iba pa na.
Welcome back. You're still watching Industry Beacon. Let's talk more with architect Royal Pineda. Okay, so Royal, I know you're making a push for Philippine Bamboo. You'd like to market it as modern Filipino timber.
Yes.
Talk to us about the potential of this product.
Well, I was very happy to see and meet this group that they're from the States now, and they've been looking for a strong and really the best bamboo that they can use for this engineering. So they went to Brazil. They also checked the Philippines. Well, they saw that it's in Mindanao, so they checked the Philippines, and they saw that item in Bukidnon. And this bamboo is 20 meters long, tall, and we're now doing it and collaborating in making it the glue laminated bamboo as a structural, not just an architectural finish or material, but to be a structural component of the buildings or the structure itself, the architecture.
Okay. Let's talk about the merits of Philippine Bamboo. What makes Philippine Bamboo different? And as I understand, it takes 5 years for a bamboo tree to fully mature.
Yes.
So, I mean, it saves us so much time than larger trees and having to use larger trees. And our environment is perfect to grow bamboos. It seems like, you know, you're at the cusp of something big with bamboo in construction.
It's part of the vision of a modern Philippines, because if we're thinking of finding an organic process to bring luxury by design to every Filipino. So if we're able to design a material that is accessible, that grows within your community, and also produced by the community, then every Filipino homes will be beautiful because it's affordable. And it's going to be easy to build. So that becomes organic. You don't need major contractors to do it. So I think if this effort will be a model that will be absorbed and applied by other communities, it would be a great thing.
Okay. Now, on another front, as an architect, I wanted to get your thoughts on preservation, the preservation of old buildings. How do we preserve our history? How do we bridge the old and the new in architecture? Yes. What are your thoughts on heritage preservation?
I always believe in the idea of being rooted, because this is part of our history. This is part of who we are as Filipinos. And I think we can always marry the two. It's just a matter of how. Because Filipinos, we have this concept of if it's old, knock it down and then totally,
something completely new.
Different, but in the end, for me, it's nostalgia, it's memories. And I think if we can, and there's a way to preserve it and keep it, there's also a way to better it. So for me, I can work, that's why it's modern Filipino also, with all the projects that we can somehow save or repurpose, let's do it.
On that note, a big project comes to mind, NAIA, the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. It's due for a major revamp.
Yes.
Right now, it's under, at the helm of that airport project is the San Miguel Group. What advice would you give the San Miguel Group as they undertake the big revamp of the NAIA? Our main gateway? Well,
NAIA, very close to my heart. First, it's done by our national artist, Leandro Vilocsin. At the same time, we were also part of that renovation that was done a few years back. And for me, that is a jewel. For me, it is a part of our great history.
Right? Our architectural heritage.
It is an architectural heritage. It is a part of our, again, our chain of history. And I believe there's a way creatively to put it together with the major modern additional infrastructure without destroying and to be able to celebrate that past altogether. Again, that's a creative challenge.
Yeah, and like you said, very big creative challenge. And like you said, the nostalgia of the airport of this building. I mean, we all remember coming into it when we were young. It was big and beautiful and bold. Now it's too small for what we need.
Yes.
But if they can maintain that little bit of the work of Leandro Locsin from the 70s, that would be wonderful, how to marry that.
And Maiki, for me, that is humanity. Memories are important. It's like remembering your mother, your parents, your family time, your dining time. I think that is part of memories.
All right. Thank you so much, Royal. It was a pleasure having you and hearing your insights. All right. That's it for today's show. I'm Maiki Oreta, capped the Billionario News Channel on Free TV Channel 31 and on cable via Cignal Channel 24. Thanks for watching the Billionario News Channel, always on top.
At BNC, morning means business. The numbers and the stories that drive the economy and shape the world on Basis Points. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m. Cultivate a growth mindset and see where your finances is taking you on Follow the Money. Weekdays, 10:30 a.m. The stories behind successful micro, small, and medium enterprises on Pathways to Success. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Sit down with the trailblazers, the disruptors, and